The story unfolds in a universe where space, time, and thought blend into one. The world is half dream, half reality, where human emotions take physical form and where memories are no longer contained in the mind, but play out across a vast metaphysical landscape. There's no consistent time, no straight line of thought, no clarity. Everything warps constantly. This is the ripple, a mysterious phenomenon of spatial distortion that appears to consume and reshape both people and their world. We see Nora, early 30s, ordinary office worker with an inquisitive mind, working late at her desk. She's always been fascinated by the idea of parallel universes, but dismisses it as wild imagination. The room is stark, sterile, and bathed in cold fluorescent light. Papers are scattered across her desk. Her hands shake slightly as she works on a complicated report. The world outside the window is pitch black, unnaturally so. She glances at the time. The clock reads 3 a.m. The second hand begins to flicker, skipping between seconds. Nora taps the clock, annoyed. As soon as she does, the silence in the room deepens unnaturally. The fluorescent lights hum louder. A faint ripple distorts the space behind her, almost unnoticeable, but it's there. Nora, whispering to herself, "Come on, focus, you're not losing it." Suddenly, a soft, almost musical tone hums from the air vent. Nora looks up. The clock's second hand begins to spin uncontrollably. Her eyes widen. Nora reaches for her bag, but as she touches it, the fabric stretches like liquid, pulling her hand deeper into the bag until her fingers disappear completely. Nora, alarmed, "What the hell?" She yanks her hand free. The ripple spreads across the desk, making everything sway like the whole office is sinking into water. The light overhead flickers and goes out. Complete darkness. Silence. Then a faint click echoes. Nora is no longer in her office. She stands in a completely different space, her breath ragged. The walls are made of mirrors, but the reflections are distorted, impossible versions of herself. Her reflections show her wearing unfamiliar clothes, some distorted with exaggerated limbs, others impossibly older or younger. The floor beneath her shifts with each step, soft as if it's alive. A voice, echoing but familiar, calls out, "You've stepped into the ripple!" Nora turns sharply to find the Curator, a tall, gaunt figure wearing what seems like a mosaic of broken glass. His face shifts subtly, as if multiple people are occupying the same body, constantly rearranging features. Nora, disoriented, defensive. "Who are you?" A fragment. A shard. A witness to everything. He holds out a hand, and a liquid-like ribbon of light emerges from his palm, coiling in the air. As Nora stares, the ribbon forms a doorway. It's too late to go back. Walk through or you'll fade. Nora stares at the glowing doorway. The other side flickers between images, places she knows and doesn't know. Cities made of clouds, oceans suspended in midair, an endless library made of books that seem to whisper. Reluctantly, she steps forward. Nora is now in what appears to be a library, but the books float and twist around in midair. The shelves grow like trees, wooden roots stretching up toward an open sky filled with a swirling galaxy. A wind howls through the space. She looks around, confused and awed. A figure, the architect, sits in a floating chair suspended in the air. He is made of letters, constantly rearranging, rewriting himself in an eternal loop. His eyes are calm, but his body flickers between forms, much like the Curator, though less disorienting. The architect. You seek structure in a world built on imagination. Nora looks around, confused by the surreal environment. Nora. What is this place? What happened to my world? The architect, smiling faintly. Your world was always fractured. It just took time for the cracks to show. Now you're inside it. Inside your own unspoken dreams, fears, and questions. He waves a hand and one of the floating books descends, opening to a blank page. Suddenly images appear, fragments of Nora's childhood memories, conversations she had forgotten. The pages flip, showing other moments she never lived but feels intimately familiar. The ripple has begun to erase her identity, intermingling her past with possible futures. Nora, desperately. I just want to go home. The architect's form flickers and he stands. The galaxy above contracts into a small marble in his palm. The architect gently. There is no home. Only now, and even that is fleeting. He drops the marble, and as it hits the ground, it shatters into 1,000 stars, enveloping her in light. Nora now floats in a dark, boundless expanse. She can't tell which way is up or down. In front of her appears a version of herself. Older, wiser, with streaks of silver in her hair. Older Nora. You're not supposed to be here. Nora. What am I? Older Nora. A piece. A fragment caught in the ripple. You're not the first. The two of them are suspended in this empty space, but as they talk, the ripple distorts them. Pieces of their bodies flicker out, vanishing momentarily. Nora, desperate. I need to understand. What is this? Older Nora sighs. The ripple is an awakening, a flaw in reality. It's like time and space breaking down, but only for those who see it. Most people never will. A low hum grows louder, and Nora realizes the ripple is growing stronger. The older version of herself begins to disintegrate, pieces of her flickering out of existence. Older Nora, you need to wake up before it consumes you. Nora reaches out, trying to grab hold of her fading self. Nora, how? Older Nora, you can't escape the ripple, but you can learn to bend it. Nora is now in a city, but it's one that bends and twists unnaturally. Buildings loop into themselves. Streets lead to nowhere and back again. The sky is purple with clouds made of glass. Nora stands at the center of it, struggling to stay grounded. She closes her eyes, feeling the ripple inside her, feeling the distortion. Suddenly, she opens her eyes and the world around her rearranges. Buildings straighten, roads extend forward. But as she exerts control, figures emerge from the shadows, shapeless beings made of shifting static, stalking toward her. Nora, to herself, "They're coming for me!" She runs, but the ripple distorts her path, twisting her surroundings into a labyrinth of impossible geometry. The beings get closer. In a moment of panic, she stomps her foot, and the ground beneath her shatters, plunging her into another dimension. Nora falls through a void of swirling colors and silent chaos. She finally lands on solid ground, though the ground is made of words, twisting beneath her feet like snakes. She gets up, breathless, only to find herself in front of the Curator again, waiting for her. "You cannot outrun it. It will always find you." Behind him, the ripple grows, a massive wave of distortion preparing to engulf her entirely. Nora closes her eyes. Nora stands still as the ripple surges toward her. Instead of running, she stretches out her arms, letting the wave of distortion pass through her. Her form flickers, dissolves, but in its place, something new emerges, a hybrid of her old self and the ripple itself. She is no longer a prisoner of the ripple, but a part of it. She opens her eyes. The city in front of her is different. Less distorted, more tangible. But it's not the world she knew. It's a new place, strange, unfamiliar, but hers to explore. There is no escaping it, but I can learn to reshape it. She walks forward, her form now flickering in sync with the ripple, fading into the horizon as the world rebuilds around her. Like and subscribe! See you again soon!